Yeah, so now we are live. All right, and I'm super excited we get to do this again. We get to have this conversation again. I'm so excited. And then again, that Sally is able to join us today. Yeah, so that gives me a lot of joy. So Sally, let me confirm once again that you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Super. Thank you so much, Sally, for making it possible to join this conversation, this fireside chat. I am going to get this started. Um, Yeah, so we started this last week, and of course, talking about the global risks report and the African education system. So I'm going to be asking the both of you a lot of questions. Like I have a lot of questions for you guys, for the both of you, a lot of questions, um, you know, concerning the African education system and the global risks report, connecting the dots, and what it means for us in Africa. What does this mean? And what is the whole thing about this, and what is the narrative this is pointing to? But before then, I'd like to ask a question, and the question is first of all to say that where are we? So right now in Africa, right? So Sally, I understand the fact that you you are, like I always call you, to the STEM queen of Africa, and so you see a lot of things from where you are as regarding what education looks like, and of course from other countries from your network. So I'm going to ask both of you, where do you think we are right now in the African education system? But before I jump into the right now, for those that are able to join us synchronously, this is a fireside chat, and we're talking about the Global Risks Report and the African education system. In case you don't know what the Global Risks Report is all about, well, you need to know, and we're going to be talking also about that as we go on in this conversation. So I'm going to jump into that question, and I'd like to start with Sally. Okay, Sally, is it okay if I start with you?
Hello, hello. Thank you for inviting me for this session. It's a topic that needs clarity, discussion, and education as well. I would phrase it back to when we started the SDGs, and sometimes a question: do learners know what that means? Do they know the effect, the impact? Now, we're talking about the global risk. Have we educated our youth, our educators as well? Do we look at this as issues that are affecting the Western world and think that what affects them will not affect us? As we're all aware, it's a global village. Currently, what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, we're starting to feel the heat. So every time there's fire in Australia, that affects the rest of the world. So there's so much connectivity, and you can just see with the pandemic, something that started in just one small little city in China, within 2 weeks, it was in every other part of the world. So talking about global risk, there are obviously the five of them. In every way, they will affect Africa and affect Africa in a big way. And we need to secure ourselves. We need to look into issues like cybersecurity, that is quite alarming. Are we looking at it like something that's just going to affect people with money, or are we aware that right in the village we feel the effect? When I looked at that as rated as one of the global risk, initially I went to, in my mind, it was, oh yeah, they're going to hack the big banks. Everyone with a lot of money will be in trouble. In less than 2 days, I actually went like, I think sometimes we attract what we fear or what we think about. Two of my websites were hacked.
Wow.
Look at that. Look at
Wow.
that. So now that is making me extremely cautious, extremely careful. As an educator, anytime I get something that's affecting me, I make sure that I educate the others. So now I'm becoming this big campaigner of cybersecurity. Sometimes when these things affect you, that's when they get very close home. You get it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yes, as Africa, we're waking up slowly, slowly. You can see a lot of workshops going on the global risk. You can see the leaders talking about it, but there's much, much more work that needs to be done. Otherwise, like I said, Teresa, I live in a desert, but I shouldn't call it a desert anymore because lately we have rain, which is unusual.
Great,
It's
great.
totally unusual. We are celebrating.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's wonderful. That's how much things can change.
Mhm. We've been relying on South Africa for food, but now we're starting to farm. We've not been farming because, I mean, it's very hot, it's very expensive to farm. But now things are changing, and that's a positive thing. Thank
Absolutely.
you. Mm.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, Sally, for that. Thank you for highlighting that word, global risks, and for bringing it to the light again that indeed it's a global village, and we are no longer in the place where we can say, oh, we are just in Africa. Whatever happens anywhere in the world affects the rest of the world. Thank you for starting on that note, and that's a lot. That's a lot. Thank you for setting that pace, and I think that's going to be a pace for us to continue moving with in this conversation, right? Whatever happens anywhere in Ukraine, in Russia, any part of the world, it's eventually it has the potential to affect every part of the world, including Africa, and that's just the truth. Thank you, Sally, for that. So, Teresa, what do you think? Where are we in Africa right now?
I love what Sally has just mentioned there. I think if anything, the pandemic absolutely shook the world. And I think it definitely created the awareness amongst us that we are interdependent. That one single event can actually touch the entire world, which is what we learned about that. And it touched on so many different facets of society. But I think, especially in terms of education, we realized just how important it is that we stay abreast of what is happening around us. I think also just the way that we were sort of automatically forced to go onto an online environment so that we could continue the educational process. I think that's one of the things that just brought about so many opportunities and created so much of an awareness of how far we are as a country, maybe as a continent, as far as that is concerned. Because if truth be told, in many of the African countries and elsewhere in the world also, um, many people are still having trouble with connectivity, having access to technology, having access to means of accessing all of that. So there is so much that we need to address besides the fact that there are now risks that we are facing. So for the African continent, I think we need to be working at where we are at and how do we bring that on par with what is happening on the rest in the rest of the world. So I think our conversation today that is going to be touching on digital dependencies and cyber vulnerabilities, these are the things that are going to help us identify the need we have to progress a little bit faster than what we are actually doing. I think also what we want to pay attention to is how we want education to help us to address so many of the issues that we are facing. And if we identify people who are already doing the most for this, those are the programs we want to highlight. Those are the programs that we want to be focusing on. And I think that is especially what we are welcoming Sally for today, because we know that they're doing great things in destination imagination for Africa. So we are very keen to hear what Sally has to share with us today, especially in this regard, because like I say, they definitely, they've been doing the most as far as that is concerned.
Mhm. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Teresa, for that. Awesome. So I think it's just okay for us to jump into this into the five things highlighted in the global risk report, right? And I believe strongly that right now, it's high time we convert our problems as a continent to a curriculum. I am of that opinion that if we have an education system that is not capable of addressing the problems we have, then it's almost of no use, right? So I'm of the opinion that right now, every of if I'm to start a school right now, don't be surprised if you just discover that the only thing they'll be learning in that school is how to address these global rates, right? So they're only offering five subjects. So I'm just trying to emphasize the extent I want to go, just to ensure that there's an educational system that is really addressing the problems that exist in reality, right? Not just paper problems and problems that don't have any potential risks and all of that. So let's jump on this week. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is, of course, digital dependencies and cyber vulnerability, or just to say cyber security. Right? Sally mentioned an instance of something that happened with her. So even before I joined this meeting, right, I checked my WhatsApp, and I saw a lot of scam messages. Every now and then when I'm going through WhatsApp, I see a lot of people. Scammers are so much out more than ever before. I see a lot of SMS on my phone, and these are scam messages. I know because of how inclined I am to scam messages. Like I had to educate myself in that regard to understand how to identify links not to click and wants to click and all of that. I know these are just scam messages, and a lot of people are going to fall victim to this. Right. So I think we should start on that note. Cybersecurity. So I'm going to start again with Sally. So Sally, for the African education system, what does this mean for? What do you think we should begin to do right now? Right. Understanding the fact that cybersecurity is a critical problem right now across the globe, even right here in Africa. What kind of how should our education system address this particular problem? Sally, over to you.
Thank you, sir. A good question. And yes, this is critical, but as we know it, there's an echo on my call. Can you hear that?
No, but we can hear you clearly, but we cannot see you.
Okay. Um, just 1 minute.
Okay, it's fine. Yeah, so we're waiting for Sally to reconnect, and we're really going to dig into this, dig deep into this cybersecurity and what it means for the African education system. Okay, yeah. Hi, Sally, welcome back.
I'm not sure what I'm doing. I'm tech
Oh,
savvy, but
okay, it's fine. Yeah, we can hear you. Like I can hear you.
okay, just giving me an echo, but I'll ignore the echo and get going. But it's also looks like I double click, and maybe
Yeah,
that's why you're not
yeah,
able to hear me.
yeah. I think so. I think so.
Just 1 minute.
All right, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, so maybe I should move to you, Teresa, and I'd like to hear from you on the same thing. So, what do you think it means for the African education system? Looking at the
I
topic,
think I want to tie up with what we spoke about earlier. It is it is alarming that we are speaking about risks that already exist. I think if we take a look at the report speaks about digital distress, and it is addressing something that already exists out there. But like I said previously, some of the realities that we are facing is that we have areas that have not even accessed the digital platforms yet. Technology is still outdated. Access to internet is non-existent, and that impacts education in a big way. So those are some of the things that we still have to address, and the rest of the world is already addressing the threats that exist out there. If I can just quickly go back to the report and mention some of the numbers that we are faced with. 435% increase in ransomware is
wow,
identified as a risk. The report
that's a
speaks
lot.
about a $3 million gap in cyber professionals needed worldwide. It speaks about an estimated $800 billion estimated growth in value of digital commerce by 2024. That's in 2 years' time. It speaks about 95% cybersecurity issues that are traced back to human error. So, if we're going to go back to some of these things that have been highlighted by the report, this translates to the digital distress that the world is currently facing. So these are the things that we want to mitigate. These are the things that we want to be able to prepare for. So when we take a look at the dependency on technology these days, it has grown exponentially. And a simple hack of your emails or your social media platforms is but a drop in the ocean of what actually is existing out there. The risks that we have, that governments face, society, so much depends on technology these days. And if one thing goes wrong, a whole lot of people are affected. Like, I mean, even this platform that we are using now, if this goes out, we are unable to communicate meaningfully in the way that we
Yeah.
want to. So I think these are the things that we want to speak to today. And what does that mean for us in the education platform?
Yeah, absolutely, 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 Teresa. Thank you so much for that. So Sally, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Awesome, super. So I'm excited you're back. Right. So cybersecurity, digital dependency, cyber vulnerability. Um, what does this mean for the African education system? Is it saying that there's something we need to start teaching in our schools? Is it saying that there's a new kind of schools that must emerge? What do you think, Sally?
Thank you. And yes, a very good question. There's a lot that needs to be done, and this should start with us looking at education. As you all know it, as we popularly say it in Africa, it takes a village to raise a child. So getting back to that, we need to look at all the stakeholders that are involved in us raising that child. So this cannot be done in isolation. We need to have the policymakers get involved. All the stakeholders need to get involved. And that should start from our governments getting to appreciate and embrace the change that's coming, the change that's already here. When we are still talking about for the Industrial Revolution, other continents are already talking about the sixth. Yet when we talk about fourth, it's still not covered. Infrastructure remains a nightmare in Africa. And the pandemic has exposed the kind of issues we have. So as we sort out, this can't be done in isolation. It can't be my thing or your thing. We need the private sector, we need the corporates, we need the policymakers, we need everyone to rise up and take action. We've seen in some countries, there's some changes. They're starting to introduce the framework. Like currently I'm seeing in Kenya, there's a lot of education going on, digital citizenship, alarming people on cybersecurity and coming up with curriculums where we ensure that
Interesting.
right from the classes, children are taught, children are aware. Because we know this is a risk and it's not just going to affect people in isolation. It doesn't matter where you are, you'll get affected. Yeah.
Exactly,
Thank you.
exactly,
Mhm.
Sally. Yeah, thank you so much for that. It doesn't matter where you are, you definitely get affected. So, still in that sense. Now, a few days ago, I was just thinking about it. Now we have WhatsApp. WhatsApp is used across the globe. As much as I know there are people across the continent using WhatsApp. India, um, all over the world. I'm sure you agree with me. Like all over the world.
Yes.
And the
Mhm.
moment the moment an issue happened to WhatsApp this year, you remember that incident early this year,
Yes.
that for some
Mhm.
days,
Yes.
and then that looks similar to a pandemic. I don't know what we'll call that. It's not a pandemic, but maybe it's a techdemic or something. You know, but it- but it- but again, it shows that one, we are so connected, and then again, um digging deep into the classroom and ensuring they are right from year one to year two to year three to year four to year five. And like you talked about the policymakers and the stakeholders, there's a curriculum that is now designed, right, that addresses various layers, in modules of this particular subject. Of course, in an agile way, saying that it's not fixed. Because my issue right now with our curriculum in Africa is that it's fixed. Any curriculum that is
Mhm.
fixed is dangerous. I believe any fixed curriculum is dangerous. It's
Yeah.
not preparing for the future. As long as it's fixed, it doesn't have the capacity to prepare for the future. And I see that a lot. And I know that It has to be a curriculum that will be agile enough to keep changing based on the realities that unfold. So thank you, Sally, for taking us to that level right now. Now you talk about the classroom. So now we see that in the classroom, right? If there are school leaders or administrators listening to this conversation, right? So we're seeing that right now in our classrooms, one of the subjects we offer, if we want to be really very disruptive and really get to this thing, is that we need to name it cybersecurity. I don't think it's a crime. Sal, is it a crime?
No. Did you ask if it's a crime
Yeah,
to teach children cybersecurity?
yeah. To make it a
No, I
subject.
think it should be compulsory.
Awesome, awesome. Just like we have now, we have maths, we have English, we have
Yeah.
whatever. Then we should have cybersecurity because it
Mhm.
has become so big and so wide. Because
Yeah.
by the time as the topic is looked into and is broken down, I mean, it's just a whole lot on its own too, right? So Teresa,
Mhm.
what do you think? What do you think about where we are right now, and about what this means for the education sector? What are your expectations? What would you expect that? How would you expect that this will be connected to the current K to 12, the African education system?
I think it's important. We spoke about stakeholders and approaches changing. I think one of the things that we absolutely need to focus on first is the digital equality. That is something that definitely needs to be addressed because the reality is more progressive countries are out there fighting for cyberspace. And
Yeah,
we are still just trying to get on board. So I do think that there is a greater need for us to accelerate everything about cybersecurity. But before we can even get to that, we need to take a look at technology and where we are as far as that is concerned. We need to take a look at what we want our learners to be able to access. And if I can just come back to the global risk report, if we need cyber professionals, then that means we need to educate towards that because the greater the need, the more the demand, and I think that's a gap. Like we have identified a gap. So instead of now encouraging learners to just become IT specialists, we have identified a gap that actually now exists where we can sort of teach towards. So if we can take a look at cybersecurity as a subject, I agree there's absolutely a greater need for that. More education as far as that is concerned. We need to educate our educators so that they are equipped to teach towards that. And I think once we are able to sort of localize that for as many countries as we can and take a look at how this can become part of a global initiative, then we're going to be moving in the right direction. I think the challenge, of course, is always the stakeholders. How do we get the stakeholders involved? And how do we get to connecting with the right people that stand, at the forefront of this kind of development that we're suggesting?
yeah, definitely, definitely. So now, thank you so much, Teresa, for bringing us to that place. Stakeholders, very crucial. So Sally is the CEO of Destination Imagination in Africa, and I know that there's a lot happening. Like I interviewed some kids who are a part of that program, and then I saw the project you're working on. I mean, projects were super amazing. Like these projects were solving real life problems, and I'm a big fan of the fact that schools should focus on solving real problems and not paper problems, right? I'm a big fan of that. K to 12 in Africa should be totally redesigned to become focused on solving real problems. Like it's not too early to bring in authentic problems into the classroom and have kids discussing about authentic problems. Now that's Sally's forte, and I'm going to ask Sally to tell us about what she has seen, what has been happening, and from our field as regards school. When I check DI on LinkedIn and I see that okay, what is currently happening is that the conventional school system is trying to open up. It's trying to open up to the STEM or the STEAM or stream framework and trying to absorb it. Right, Sally, what do you think? Do you think it should just be about opening up, or it should be about an overall? Like because if there's an opening up, I asked those kids, they tell me that they don't enjoy what they do in the classroom. like some of I think what's her name? I think Helika was saying to me that
Mhm.
when they sit in the classroom and all those writing notes, said it's boring. They don't enjoy it, right? But this they find a lot of meaning. It's so meaningful. It's purposeful. Like they see it as something that worth their time, and so they're
Mhm.
ready to plug and give it. So what do you think? Do you think schools should just stay at the level of just opening up to STEM, or you think they should go deeper, right? And it should become something that is a core essence of the school system right now in Africa. What do you say to that, Sally? Yeah, Sally.
Thank you. And yes, a very good question. Um, we need to take a step back and look at what is insanity. Clearly, doing the same thing again and again and expecting different results is not taking us anywhere. I think we're clear from that point, right? Am I on?
Definitely
You
you are.
there, right?
Definitely you are. Definitely you are.
And we agree what insanity is, right?
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
And we agree the outcome, the results we're getting from our learners. One, we're struggling with learner retention, and we've seen it within the pandemic. Some children didn't go back to school, and our children are clearly losing interest in school. They can see they have their siblings that have their degrees, they have their masters, and they still don't have jobs. So here comes the big question. Africa is the second continent in the world that spends most of her budget within education. We spend in obviously health and education, those two. The budget, it doesn't matter which country you are in, we spend a lot of money within Africa on education. So what we need to address is, how come we spend so much money in education, money that we struggle to have, and yet we're not getting any different outcome? How can we be the second continent? I think we're the second continent with the highest rate of unemployment. Currently, we're looking at 90% of our youth in Africa are jobless. That is alarming. That is alarming. That is scary. So when we're talking about addressing crime, addressing poverty, shouldn't we take a step further and look into how do we get there if our education system remains the same? Now, this takes me back to the stakeholders again, coming to the party and first addressing our curriculum. If we teach our children the way we were taught, we're boring them, we are robbing them their tomorrow. It's not working. That needs to be addressed. And when we talk about that, teacher training is critical. Teacher training, if we're expecting teachers to be change agents, to be our ambassadors, to spearhead the whole education system, to produce better outcomes for our learners, to teach them as they should, then we need to address how we're training them. How is the training being done? Are they progressing? Are we every day addressing constant issues that are coming up? Now we're looking at the pandemic. That was something new. Do we know how we can deal with the next pandemic? Are we safe as we speak? The global risk, the issues that are being addressed, I look at mental health as a very, very strong part of that. How are we addressing it? How are we making sure that our teachers are sound, healthy in every way? How are we paying them? How are we training them? So this would bring some major changes. It will bring a shift. If we do it differently, we'll have better outcomes. They will be able to address learners, and we will have better nations. We'll have a better continent. I hope I've addressed your question.
Yes, definitely, Sally. Yes, definitely, Sally. To the stakeholders, and yes, from that level
I don't know,
downwards.
is it your volume or mine? You're very low, you're faint.
Oh, really? How,
Yeah,
how,
I can hardly hear you. Mm.
how about now? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Is
it's
it better
very
now?
faint. A
Oh,
little bit.
okay. Okay, does it sound better now? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, okay, great. Yeah, thank you. So this is where we are right now. we see that great need for a serious overhaul of the education system in terms of outcome. What we see to be the outcome, right? What should be the output? I was reading a book by Seth Godin. What is school for? So, like, what should be the outcome? We see right now that there's a need for us to totally redefine what school is meant for in Africa. Is it to raise kids who will pass an exam, or to raise kids who have the skills that are needed to thrive in a society that has changed and that has become global and interconnected, to raise
Mhm.
kids who are able to provide solutions to their immediate society and community right there. We want to have that kind of education system. And that's what you're talking about right now. Thank you so much, Sally, for taking us to that level. Um and again, on the part of the stakeholders, I see something political. I know this is not the platform for us to talk about that, and which really gives me a lot of concern rather. I'm really bothered about the fact that on the side of the stakeholder talking about the government and really trying to get them to plug in and to really get things done. Sally, what has been your experience in really getting stakeholders on the I side as regards government, the government rather, and in plugging into things like this and supporting the implementation? Does it look like we have to depend more on private organizations and look more on the government side? What do you think, Sally?
Well, yes, thank you. We have to make sure we are empowering our youth so they're able to make the right decisions when we are electing our leaders.
Hmm.
We're making the same mistake again and again. And you can see it how most of our African governments are run. We need to, when we empower them and through the kind of interventions we are doing, teaching them soft skills, which makes them learn how to communicate, how to problem solve, how to be critical thinkers. That helps a lot. They get to know they have a voice, they have a say,
Hmm.
they are the future leaders, and they can be our change agents.
Yeah,
So from there, I see like the way you spoke to most of the learners we've dealt with, they're extremely brilliant.
yeah,
These
yeah.
children, sometimes I look at them and I go like, what was I thinking about when I was 16, like you? And it's totally different. We didn't grow up with internet. So these
Yeah.
children, information is on their fingertips. They want a better life. They want change.
Mm.
Most of us, my age group in Africa, we are the second generation to go to school. Some of us, we are the first generation within our families that are getting into business. So there's a lot to learn. Our life was very different, and we should be very much aware. The more we train our youth, we encourage them, we empower them, we will have a better continent.
Definitely, definitely, Sally. Thank you for taking us again to that point. Teresa, let me confirm that you can hear me. Can you hear me, Teresa? Okay. Yeah. Can you hear me, please?
I can hear you. Your sound is a bit low, but I can still hear you.
Oh. Sorry about that. I really don't know what that is right now. That looks kind of technical, but then
No
it's
problem.
fine. Okay. So looking at what Sally has said, and because we're trying to dig deep into, I know this is going to be a series. We may not be able to touch other risks today, really. But talking about cybersecurity, digital dependency, cyber vulnerability, and really having an education system that has this as a component, as something that is really part of it, right? I think we can spend some more time really addressing this issue, right? For the sake of those that are listening and trying to understand what's happening, and but because I see that another thing I see is that in this knowledge economy, right, a lot of people don't know what's actually going on, right? Like a lot of people don't really know, like this global risk report, like there are few people that really know about it, that this is something that is so alarming, the figures and what is seen and all of that. So Teresa, what do you think right now? Speaking to the implementation aspect, right? What do you think, from what Sally has said, what do you think again it means for the African education system, taking it down to the schools and to the classrooms, right? What do you think it means from the aspect of stakeholders joining the flow and every other thing? What are the other things you see that you think should be part of this flow of this system to ensure that there is truly implementation? because all we're concerned about is seeing this thing happen, right? Seeing this thing happen, making it happen in the schools, in the classroom. What do you think on the part of the stakeholders and private organizations? What do you think should be the real thing that's going to happen to make us see this happen in our education system?
Yeah, I think that's why we are here, because we don't only want to talk about what it is that's happening, we also want to try and find solutions to this. Before I do that, however, if you don't mind, I'd like to come back in our previous interaction. There was a comment made on exactly that I'd like to quickly read, if you'd allow me to. Can I do that?
Yes, please.
Africans, all of us, need to not only keep up with technological advances of the global world, but we need to incorporate the growing list of 21st century skills into every aspect of schooling systems. Our curriculum and schooling system must give our young people the tools which they need to think about problems in a critical manner and develop solutions to meet the demand of their immediate communities first. The result from starting small will impact and speak to the global community. Young people need to see the value in working with others collaboratively for a greater good, not simply attempting to ride the small wave of one person, but inherently many small waves combined can give us the biggest success to bring about change Africa desperately needs. We need to be able to raise the literacy level of children so they are able to read and question, not simply answer. For example, we have come to a time when thinking about literature in the manner of a model answer should be a mere suggestion. Our children should be graded for seeing things from an original point of view and back that up with perspective and evidence from their text. It is our difference that must be celebrated in schools, not our sameness. Young people think there is power in being the same. Let's all wear what is trending today. Let's all follow the same TikTok dance. No, what we should do is celebrate and encourage variety. Here lies true change. In order to filter these 21st century skills down to students, teachers themselves need to acquire these skills. We can no longer simply be masters of our subject. Our children find no value in our subjects. We need to give them practical ways and resources to use their subject in the real world. Teacher training colleges must do things differently to bring about change in our school. For those who are currently in the system, need skills updating, but we also need the motivation to want to do things better. That was 13 days ago, one of the comments on the YouTube channel. And I so enjoyed that comment because I think it links with what Sally has just said. I think the worst thing that can happen to a learner is an uninspired teacher. So if a teacher, it's like she said, that definition of insanity, we cannot keep doing the same things and expect a different result. We cannot always just blame government or the stakeholders. We cannot do that. If we want to affect change, it needs to start where we are. And all of us have some circle of influence. If it is only the learners in a class, then for a teacher, that is where it begins for you. So I think mindset is important. As teachers, we should not only be aware that there is something called a global risk report. We need to study that report and take a look at what is it that the world is focused on so that we can align our teaching with that. Because we are the point of access for our learners. So if we are not inspired to do that, then it's not going to work at all. So I definitely agree. If you take a look at our learners, what they are like in class, how they react to the subject matter, if those learners are not having aha moments in classroom, then we are doing something wrong. And I think that is what we want to move towards. Stream thinking, that's where we are supposed to be working at. Everything needs to come together in the classroom, not just one subject at a time. Design thinking, I'm big about design thinking. If you have a problem and you have to find a solution, there's a process involved in that. If we can focus rather on more of that in the classroom, I think we also will be able to create learners that are on par with seeking solutions to the problems. So, cyber crime, everything that is happening in the cyber world at the moment, if there is a problem with that, if we want to ensure cyber security, we need to ensure learners that understand what is involved in all of that. So we need to be teaching towards learners that will open themselves up to find out more and then use the knowledge to bring about change through the solution finding process. So I think that's where our focus needs to be.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sally. Thank you for pointing that out. So right now we're getting deep and deep into this, right? Cybersecurity in the classroom, and of course, talking about what our teachers are doing in the classroom, and what is the essence of classroom engagement and all of that, the kind of activities that happens. We're seeing that there's a big need for us to align whatever is happening in the classroom to what is obtainable in reality. Across the school recently, because of my research, the name of the school is iTech I. So so this year 11 kids they came together. So something similar to what Elika, Amy. I remember those kids. They're amazing, Sally. Those kids are really amazing. Something similar to what we were doing, you know. So I Tech High, these kids came together with their teacher, and they were going to address a particular problem in Kenya. Yes, Kenya. There was a national issue that was raised in the world of animals. Like there was this particular problem, a medical something with animals. It was a national issue that needed to be addressed, right? And these kids took it up, right? They took it up. So that was a project they worked on. And so, of course, it involved a lot of things. At the point, they had to travel down to Kenya um, to go and get some raw and real facts and see some things the way they are and gather some things to work on, in the project. And at the end of the whole thing, it was going to end as a conference, right? So they were going to deliver a conference to a group of people on the solution they have found from the learning experience, right? And that tells me a lot of things. That tells me a lot of things. Sally, I believe strongly that right now in Africa, if this is the kind of education we have everywhere, I am super sure that in the next 10 years, Africa is not going to be what it is right now. But if that is not the kind of education we have everywhere, then there might be a big problem, right? Because we'll keep having an education system that doesn't have the potential to affect our society and our economy. That's what we're going to keep having. And I think that's what, so when we look at some places in the world, they are very intentional about their education. I was studying China, and I know China has a plan for 2025, and the plan for China is made in China 2025. And what that means is that by 2025 in China, everything that they are using, every product, everything, whatever they need, has to be made in China. And so what they are going to do is that they are going to work on the education system strongly to ensure that it's in a place where they are producing people, young people, who are able to make that happen, right? So the education is designed to sustain their economy, to achieve that goal, and to make that happen. And that's amazing. So if we have an education really that is really focused on saying yes, all we want to do is to ensure that our problems as a continent are really solved, and that is the essence. So if we are ending K to 12, if students are leaving year 12 and then they don't have problems that they have solved, we say they have failed, not because they failed an exam. Failing an exam is really nothing to. I don't think it's. I don't think we have a lot of them that I met a boy recently, Kainaja, 15 years old. I like to talk about that boy because of what the boy is doing. 15 years, he's an African, and this boy owns a tech company, and he's going to be writing WAEC this year. We do WAEC in West Africa, so WAEC after year 12, we do it in West Africa. all of that. And this boy already has a tech company, and this boy is hiring and is getting grants and all of that. And in my head, I was thinking, just like Sally said, when I was at a few years ago, what was I thinking about? The only thing I was thinking about was WAEC. That was the only thing, WAEC, how to pass WAEC, the exam WAEC, because I was entangled in a system that wasn't designed to help me unlock my potentials. Right? I wish I got that kind of system early. Maybe I would have been greater than this, but that's not the story. But the point is the fact that we know that if Africa is going to be great in the future, then we need to have something that looks like what the destination DI is doing in Botswana and other places. We need to have a kind of system that has that kind of outcome where kids are really solving practical problems. So down to cybersecurity, um, one of the boys, I can't remember his name, Sally, told me that when they saw that the pandemic came and kids were struggling to learn, that they had to come up with a website that can contain materials, stuff that kids can log on to, and then they can learn. And I was like, yes, that's great. That's great. So if cybersecurity is a problem right now, we are looking at seeing young people who are building products that is solving cybersecurity problems for us in Africa, locally more important because look, I'm interested in locally, what's happening locally, right? So because these cyber bullies are going to take advantage of rural areas and local places where they are taught about all of this and all of that. So we're looking at seeing young people produce products and services that are practically maybe campaigns and conferences and all of that are practically addressing this issue of what cybersecurity can become for us as a continent. Because I must tell you, it's so much alarming, right? Apart from the figures that the report is saying, like we are feeling this right here in Africa right now. We are feeling it big time. And we really see that in the next 5, 10, there's this acceleration factor that I see in this decade, 2020 and 2030. Things are escalating and accelerating. Anything, it's just I don't know. I've seen that, and I'm trying to build figures and research around that. Right, whatever has happened in 2020 can accelerate in no time and become so massive. Right, I think that's the kind of age. It's an age of disruption, and we are very angry. We are very angry what we're seeing right now because a generation of young people is about to be left behind. We are very angry and we are saying, no more. We have waited for so long and this time around, we want to take the bull by the horn and everything we can pull out to ensure that this coming generation of young people are more informed, are too informed to allow Africa to be the way it is. They have it, right? And that's why I'm excited that, about what Sally is doing, about DI, and about the moves and what the kids are doing on the product, and which is super, super great. So, Teresa, we are going to stay on cybersecurity because we have to end very soon. We're going to stay on cybersecurity a little bit more, the digital dependency and the cyber vulnerability. When we think about solutions now, when we think about solutions, I know there's this thing that is political, and so getting the government to do something for us may not happen so quick. Um, while again, if it happens, you might want to just do it to a little extent, right? Because I'm not sure of, well, I'm not sure they don't want to invest so much. They are considering many factors, and then what we see is just a little investment in that direction and nothing so much really, right? So when we're talking about solution, what do you think, Sally? What do you think, Teresa? When we're talking about real time on ground solution, right? That can really ensure. Maybe we should look away from the government right now, and look at real time solution as per what can happen. Do you think we need to have some kind of I, I think of some things in my head, but then I don't want to talk about them right now. But do you think we need to have some kind of system, some kind of I don't know whatever it is, but solutions? What do you think? Just one word: solutions that you think we need to put in place to ensure that on the issue of cybersecurity, we have something that is solving the problem for us. What do you think? Let me start with Teresa.
I think collaboration. Because,
Collaboration.
like I said earlier, we are only able to affect what we are surrounded with immediately. But the more collaboration takes place, the wider this spreads, and the more influence we obviously have. I definitely would like to hear a little bit more from Sally, because if you go onto the website for Destination Imagination in Africa, the first thing that struck me was the happy learners. Were engaged, happy learners. Learning had nothing to do with a paper and a pen and a teacher in front of a whiteboard or a blackboard. Those learners are engaged, those learners are involved, and they start off with, we have a situation and you need to come together to solve a problem. That is what struck me, and I think therein lies our solution. So I don't have the solution. You don't have the solution, but we have thinkers. We have a generation that is so into technology more than what I think I am, and I think there are some things that they just naturally have a tendency towards. So I definitely think there is more to be said about how we guide our learners to get to the solutions for us. Because like I've said, there's a gap. If we're going to need professionals, cyber professionals, then that's what we need to be teaching to. If we're saying that the value of digital commerce is going to increase in 2 years' time to $800 billion, then we're speaking dollars. We're not even speaking in our African currencies. Where do we fit in? So I think we need to teach towards that, so that we can be a part of that, because we know everything is online. You want to shop, you want to buy something online. And the first thing that comes to mind, Amazon. Why don't we have MyCarp, which is also a platform, an African platform for cyber commerce? So I think that's what we need to. That a solution lies in involving our young people and having them come up with solutions.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much, Teresa, for that. Thank you so much. Sally, over to you.
You know, Mr. Adebayo, next time you need to call us to sit in one room, because I am just trying to high five Teresa from the screen. You just got it. You nailed it. You know what is amazing? It's Africa. It's gotten to a point where we've started owning our problems and seeing them as opportunities.
Yeah.
And not constantly running to the West, come and help us. Because the solution, just like you rightly said it, Teresa, it lies within our youth. Those children, they amaze me every day. I actually usually tell them, you guys are just born in a chip. They just have a chip in their brain that just tells them every day what to do. So we're looking, and going back to the global race, you've seen the budgets for space exploration. How many schools in Africa are even thinking about it? How many governments to start with? Yeah. Recently, I was fascinated I spoke to one of the quality assurance directors in one of our best universities in Botswana. And we're going through our curriculum accreditation. We've been accredited in several other parts of the world, but in Africa, we're still green on that. So when I told him to assess our curriculum and help us run the accreditation, he looked at it and he said, you know, Sally, you need to come. So we obviously went into what age group. I told him our curriculum is for the age from 4 years up to university level. We focus in sub-Saharan Africa. So my main mandate is to make sure that we get affiliate partners, getting back to Teresa's word on collaboration. So we're looking into, can we have strong presence in Nigeria? Can we have strong presence in South Africa? Can we have someone running this in Rwanda, Kenya, Zanzibar, Mozambique, every other part of Africa? So now getting back to the university person, I'm trying to tell him, can you accredit this with some uniformity? Even if every country you go into Africa, they'll still want to assess the curriculum, but it's plug and play, which makes it very easy for us to train. But then we want to respect how we do things in Africa. It's the curriculum has been done, and it's actually updated or redone and assessed annually. So every year we get something different, precisely what we need to be doing. Because change is inevitable. Education has become extremely dynamic.
Yes.
What if we're teaching children what they don't need to learn? So this university director came back and told me, this program you're teaching at university students. I said, yes, you should enroll. We come and teach your students. Because universities, his cry was, every year we're getting a lot of graduates, but they can't find jobs. Why? They're not job ready. They lack soft skills.
mm,
So after going through the program, he said, Sally, you need to come and start with us lecturers. We're being taught to train children on soft skills, yet we don't even know how to train them. And some of us don't have those soft skills.
mm.
I don't know how many PhD holders you've met that when you communicate, you go like, really? So there's such a disconnect between academics and being what you might call streetwise. It's a skill. It's a skill that we all need to have.
Yep.
Now, with yes, with where this becomes very different for youth and they're able to address the issues, they don't have the kind of inhibitions you and I have. They are fearless, they are brave, they don't see what we see as problems, then they're looking at, they're not scared of trying. I was looking at within our challenges, one of the challenges we have in our, we do 7 challenges. So we have from engineering to scientific to fine arts, and then we let children select. There's entrepreneurship, which we call service learning, community projects, a lot of different things. So this particular one, when the learners, I asked them, okay, one of the scientific challenges we have for this year is break the scientific law. When I looked at that, for me, I went like, nobody in the world has ever broken a scientific law. How can I be telling children to do that? So I went to class and I asked them, how do you guys, which scientific laws do you know and how would you break them? My goodness, they came with all sorts of solutions on their feet, brainstorming. And I'm
Wow.
looking at them like, I couldn't even think about that. We have a team that worked on a water purification system for marine where we have lakes. I don't know, it's in India and Canada, which I'm even thinking, how do you even know about that? That we have lakes that are so polluted and fish die every day. So they're coming up with artificial intelligence systems that can purify and clean that water. I realized when we have our global competitions, which what happens is we train learners, depends, sometimes it can be 2 months, 4 months, or 6 months, and then we prepare them. They first do inter-country competitions, then they do continental.
Oh, so that looks like a network glitch. I'm sure we'll have Sally back. I'm sure we'll have her back.
I hope so. There was I'm hanging on her lips there. This is so interesting. I really do think that for anyone watching, you need to definitely go and have a look at Destination Imagination in Africa and the work that they are doing. I think what we envision for education in Africa, that's what it looks like. Destination Imagination is what it looks like. So please go over and have a look at how they go about doing that. Ah, Sally's back.
Yeah, Sally, over to you. Round off. Uh,
Your
what
sound.
your sound? Oh, we still cannot hear you. Okay.
I
Uh,
think we always seem to disappear when it gets good. I feel like last week the same thing happened.
yeah, it's fine. It's fine. So we're getting deep and deep and deep on this. So this fireside chat is a project for us as EasyDIGI is a project, and there's so much that can happen with conversations, right? I believe behind transformation are conversations, like a lot of conversations. Every time there's something huge that has happened somewhere, behind that transformation is a lot of transformation that has happened and that keeps happening every now and then. Sally, let me confirm that you can hear me. I can. Awesome, but we still cannot hear you. Um, okay, maybe you can try to log out and try to get in again. If it's gonna work. Yeah, so the more and more we keep talking about this, the more we keep talking about this, we've jumped on the global risks, and we know that through this fireside chat, a lot of people are going to be more aware about this global risks, right? And
Absolutely.
as we are as we are highlighting ideas and strategies, a lot of people are going to really gain a lot of things that they can put in place especially for school leaders in Africa, right? We need more visionary school leaders in Africa who are seeing school the way we are seeing it. We need more visionary school leaders in Africa who are seeing school
Absolutely.
like this, who see school like
Absolutely.
this, and who are really ready to have this kind of schools. A school
Sure.
where the outcome is different. Okay, I can see Sally now. Oh, she's off again.
I
Okay,
think while we try and get Sally back there's a comment from Oracle Ningeza. I hope I'm saying that right.
okay.
Um, He says we need catalytic finance, ideas, and the zeal to succeed. Believe me, we have ideas. We need ideas to collaborate. He also says cybersecurity is the least of our problems. And I know there's so many frustrations that people on the ground are dealing with, teachers are dealing with, like
Yeah,
that digital inequality that we spoke about. Like some of us are still just trying to get a laptop, a device. Some of us are still just trying to get Wi-Fi or a way to be able to connect. So we do recognize that there are bigger issues before we can even begin to speak about cybersecurity. But I think what we want to highlight is the fact that this is where the world is at globally. This is the level where the world is at, and we need to make sure that we get on par so that we are able to join the ranks as far as that is concerned. And I think we have Sally back.
yes. Aha,
I hope
yeah,
so. I
yeah.
hope you can hear me now.
Very
Yes.
well, very well.
Can you allow me to finish my point? I was on gear
Yes, please.
10.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Yeah, so I was explaining how we do the local tournaments. They do them from the schools, then they join other schools, inter schools, then inter province. So from provincial, then they do inter country, and then we go continent, which we're looking forward to doing that for the continent in September this year. And you are invited. So from there, so the winners from that competition will be trained, and then they will represent Africa for the global competitions in the US. That will be 2 weeks for learners to go to Silicon Valley to visit innovation hubs in the top best in America, and to come back as different learners. Guess what happens when we have just the Africa tournament? And guess who comes? You know, all those big 5 companies. You know, you're Google, you're Facebook, you're Deloitte, you're all those big technology companies. And guess what they come to do? They're fishing for ideas from these children.
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So that simply tells you these children are that innovative that those big companies would want to be part of that tournament.
Because
And
that's
that
where the
brings
new
to
innovation
now exactly. That brings about what we now start teaching our children, how to patent their ideas and how to align themselves with those big companies so that they can incubate them and train them and sponsor them and give them scholarships, right? As we still
Yeah,
think about, yes, we have a lot of issues in Africa. We need to expose our children as we tackle the issue of brain drain. Currently, you look for engineers, tech people. There's some jobs in Africa you struggle to get Africans to do. We just don't have the skills. Yet we are the youngest continent in the world. There is a resource that we've not even scratched the surface. We need to tap into our youth. That's a gold mine. So this collaboration we're talking about, we need to stop working in silos. We need to come together. We need to tell each other what we are doing. We need to have this awareness campaign. We can do it as we hold our governments accountable. We are taxpayers. We're not asking for favors. We're demanding action because we can't do it alone. We need their support. But as we push them, we start doing. Let's get moving. They come to schools we are in. Sometimes a minister will be passing by on his mission, get into a school we are in, and goes like, really? How come I don't know about this? And then we'll go like, we've sent proposals to your offices several times. So we decided to go ahead and do. And I'm sure that story is not new anywhere in Africa.
yeah, yeah,
So we just have to do it. We need to get going.
yeah.
They will catch up with us. When they see there's something sensible happening in a particular country, they want to be there. But we need to start, and we need to start now. We are sitting on it's a ticking time bomb, just having a lot of our youth unemployed. Think about cybersecurity. Who are the cyber criminals? It's our youth. It's our children. And why? They are very intelligent, but they're idle. So we just need to tap into that resource, which is their smart brain, and put it into good use. Thank you.
Absolutely.
You scratched my activism side.
Yeah, definitely.
We love what you stand for.
Yeah. This is a good way. This is a good way to end this chat today. Of course, it's a series, and we're still going to come back and eat other risks that the report is talking about. But this is really a good way to end this session. Um, there's a good mind that we need to tap into, and that's our youth. There's a good mind we need to tap into, and which is why we see that we need to redesign what school is meant from. What happens? That room called classroom needs to become reimagined. That room called the classroom,
Reimagined.
it needs to become reimagined. It has to be that what happens in that room is not note taking, doing classwork and homework. It's dangerous. Um, I believe that the tone of things in that classroom is the
I think we're having problems with your sound there again. I think this always happens. Last week, the same thing happened just towards the end when the conversation starts warming up. Then something happens, and I guess that is what technology also does. Sally,
Yeah.
I don't know if you would agree with me, but I definitely think that the kind of skills that we want to be tapping into are those analytic skills that the learners have. We need to teach towards the ability to collaborate, listen to each other, share ideas, convince each other.
Yes.
We need to teach tolerance. We need to teach confidence. We need to teach decisiveness. We need to teach accuracy. So if we can move towards honing in on the kind of skills that learners need in order for them to take a stand, and I mean, it's one thing to be able to come up with an idea, but to defend your idea, to communicate your idea to others, and to get people to buy into that.
Exactly.
If Google is watching and Facebook is watching, you want to be able to convince them that this is my idea and this is what I want you to do with it.
And that's where we start coming up with the entrepreneurs.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We need a lot of people creating jobs.
Yes, because I think, it's like we said earlier, it's one thing to blame government and to keep going back to government, but there are other ways in which we can affect change. What you mentioned earlier, you keep doing what you are doing. It spreads, it becomes, the awareness goes by word of mouth, not necessarily up there where the higher order is. So if you keep doing that, it spreads and it becomes bigger, and that's how we are going to affect change.
And someday when we have time, I'll tell you my story. We started very, very small, very humble beginnings. And every other day, we now just get people saying, I saw you, I love what you're doing. I can sponsor some learners. Look at that.
Wow. Well, and that's what it's about.
Yeah, because obviously funding is critical.
Yes. I think another one of the comments, the commentators earlier spoke about that. Capital, having access to capital, having access to funding. In Africa, that is always, that's one of the biggest things that we always have to fight against. We have to find ways and means to get that. So that is a big problem.
However, sometimes I feel capital and money is overrated. Sometimes what we don't have is proper structures, proper training, proper skills. How can we start small? I've been doing a lot of research on trying to demystify the myth that STEAM education is expensive. No, STEAM education is not fancy Mac products. It's not iPads. It's not MacBooks. You can start small. And we emphasize on the use of recycled materials.
Correct.
You can teach a lot of STEAM education with recycled materials. We've worked in marginalized communities. Our focus is actually marginalized communities. So we constantly find ourselves in environments where there's no electricity, there's no internet. We do a lot of printing, because if I can't tell children to go and research online, what do? I print materials for them. And then we work on how can they share the materials. And then we work on collecting resources, recycled materials. And from that, you'll have a session on science that you look at how much you spent and kids have learned. So I think, yes, funding is needed, but we could still go, we could still try.
Be creative.
If we have the interest to push it, yes, we can be very creative and we can bootstrap and still get things done. And ultimately, we will attract funders. Sorry?
I think it comes back to mindset.
Yeah, true. And there can do spirit, can be done spirit. It's very important.
Absolutely.
We don't think we can do. We seek for solutions. We find ways to get it done.
And it's like you say, if you take a look at the youth and how resourceful they are, then what else are we waiting for? We have everything right there. I also think that, if we think about stream thinking, it's a concept, it's a way of doing. It's not necessarily a resource. It is a coming together of a whole lot of skills used in order to get something done.
Yeah.
So I'm really very excited about your program and what it is that you guys are doing. I'd like to encourage our viewers and those who have subscribed to please go and have a look at what it is that Sally and the team at Destination Imagination is doing, because it definitely it epitomizes what we are about. It seems as if Alamaja is having trouble getting back into this. I also think that we definitely have gone over our time, but when we get started, we don't want to stop. But at this point, I'd like to thank you on his behalf, on behalf of the research team. It's an absolute blessing to have you join us and to share all of this with us. We're looking forward to have more conversations. We know that there are other risks that we would also like to touch on. But for your contribution today, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. Do you have some wise words to leave us with?
Thank you, Teresa. I would just love to emphasize, it's been a pleasure. Thanks to our viewers. Thanks to your team. It takes a lot to put this together. My big word is start, and start now. Even if whether it's mentorship from the child in the neighborhood, the child in your house, the child that you call your niece or your nephew, they need that. They need that support. There's a lot of information online. Make them get to know the world's biggest university is free, which I call YouTube.
Absolutely.
I did my nano degree from IBM absolutely free. I didn't pay a penny. I know a lot now in that space, and it was free. There are so many free courses. Africa, let's wake up. We are the ones we've been waiting for. It can be done. Let's not wait for anyone to come and help solve our problems. We can solve our problems. Thank you.
Well, that was awesome, wise world. Thank you so much. Thank you, Sally. And thank you to our subscribers. Thank you to those who have been listening in. Thank you to those who have been sending comments in the chat. Keep it coming. Contact us if you would like to have a session with us, if you'd like to also have further conversations with us. We do appreciate the inputs because at the end of the day, we want to work together. We want to solve the world's problems. So thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to having some more conversations in the future. Go well.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good day. Cheers.
Thank you, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye.